everyone, welcome to my channel, Scooch Sketches. The point of this channel is to capture the comic making process as I'm learning. This is my first full length comic that I'm working on. It's called The Banana Woman, and I'll be continuing to share that here. And I really hope through this process I can connect with other people working on projects to, be part of that community and help support each other. But also, it'd be really great to collaborate in the future. I'm learning how to do every piece of the process here, but obviously it's a lot of work. And in the future, it'd be really cool to collaborate. So if you're interested in doing something like that, please let me know. So I'm working on creating a series of videos. I'm also publishing these on my Substack, and I'm also posting videos on Instagram, capturing my process. But overall, I'm doing basically another Alphabet Superset challenge. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it was a challenge set by a creator named Struthless, and basically, it helps you minimize the day-to-day decision making when making art and to kind of streamline and find a process. It worked really well for me, and you can see how I did it the first time on Instagram, but this time I wanted to use it to help me capture the comic making process. So each time I upload, it's based on some kind of theme that's related to a letter in the alphabet. This week, my theme is establishing shot for the letter E. I'm not going in order exactly, but it's a nice guideline that helps me theme my works in progress. So it's not just an update, it's something that we can actually dive into together. I'll show a video here of me sketching for this page of the comic. This is page 10. And as I explained in my previous videos, I like to sketch in ink traditionally, scan it into Clip Studio to arrange, do the layouts, and color. But yeah, before I actually did the thumbnail for this page, I went to look at some examples of establishing shots and how other people have set the stage for their page. I think you can get really creative with how you do your establishing shot. But the best example I found that helped me with my page was from The Good Asian, which is a story by Pornsak P. Shetchote and Alexandre Tefengi. And, this is a really good story for me to look at as an example because it's also, kind of historical. It takes place in the past. Um, and so I'll show the example here of the page I referenced, but it kind of sets the stage, and then we have our scene setting within that page. And so I had my broad, this is where we are, and then in a smaller frame, let's zoom in on where our character is. So I think the point of an establishing shot is to show us first and foremost the location, where are we, what is the time period, but also setting up the atmosphere. And so this scene, we're switching from Honduras to New Orleans. It's the same time period, so I wanted it to look like with the colors to look like we were still in the past, but it was a big location shift. And I wanted to shift from a more bright atmosphere to something more dark and ominous since we are introducing our antagonist in this scene. For the reference from my shot, I Googled New Orleans ominous photography and found a really cool, like, fisheye warped view that I used to draw my establishing shot. The perspective's not perfect, but I like the drama of it. And, with the ominous sky, I think it helps create that atmosphere. It was also important for me to show the time period we were in. So I drew some old fashioned cars to add in there, and the streets aren't paved. We have old style street lamps, which are still there today, but just try to add a few details to kind of clue in the time period. In the scene, we meet our antagonist, the self-proclaimed General Lee Christmas. And I had done some character design art for him earlier on that I'll use in the next page. So I had already picked out a color scheme, and I got this based on I looked up a bunch of paintings from this time period, and I really liked the Picasso paintings from this early 1910 time. They're kind of muted colors, and I thought it would fit this story very well. So that's where the colors came from for this scene. So I wanted to show our antagonist, Lee Christmas, at a bar. He is a ne'er do well, you know, and I wanted to show him basically, very belligerent and unhinged. Unhinged is a good word to describe him. And so I looked up pictures of New Orleans bars um, as the background and found this really cool free wallpaper pattern. I really am inspired by patterns. So I was excited to put that in the background and create this New Orleans bar. I used a few coloring techniques in this page to make it work the way I wanted it to. I made sure my focal point was the point of greatest contrast, the lightest point on the page, which on the first panel, we have the most contrast with the sign and then a bright pink building to draw the eye to the center. And then on the second page, making sure Lee Christmas is the brightest thing in the page. So I made sure I darkened everything in the background. I'm really glad that in creating these videos, I decided to pull from references because it's forced me to go look at, I have a huge catalog of comics. I love comics so much and I'm reading them all the time. It's forcing me to go back with a critical eye and look at my favorite things and actually break down what it is they're doing to incorporate into what I'm doing. And it's also forcing me, I'm looking up all these people on Instagram and seeing what they're doing now. And so I looked up Pornsak, Pichette Chote, and Alex Tefengi to see what they're working on. And they're both working on things that sound really interesting. Pornsak is working on a thing called the Horizon Experiment, which is coming out in a couple weeks. And one of the stories in there is a reverse Indiana Jones. And this woman goes and steals artifacts from museums and gives them back to where they came from. And it's so funny because I have an idea for a comic after this one. And while I was on vacation a couple weeks ago, I couldn't bring all my tablets and my computer, so I worked a little bit on some character design for the story, and I got this idea from watching a documentary about a man named Wallace Budge who worked for the British Museum and stole artifacts from Egypt. Um, and I couldn't believe that he had written a story about something I was thinking about writing. And then I looked up Alex Tefengi, and he's also writing a story called Bronze Faces, and the first two issues are out now, which is also about someone, I think he's Nigerian, who steals, artifacts from the museum to get them back to where they belong. And in one way, it's good. It's like I obviously am tuned into what is popular right now, and um, I think it's really cool that my story, this Banana Woman and this other story idea, both have to do with criticizing colonialism and telling some stories that about people of color and about people who were oppressed, and I think that's really cool, and I'm very glad these stories are becoming more prominent. But also, I'm afraid that my story might be too similar. And I always see the writing advice of don't worry about your story being too similar to other stories. You're going to tell it in your own unique way. So I'll just have to pick up these stories, and when I'm planning my story, make sure to keep it different enough. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully something in here resonated with you. Let me know, what you're working on, what you're reading, what resources are you using if you're working on comics or art at all. Please share that with me. And hopefully, you're creating and sharing your work. Maybe give the Alphabet Superset Challenge a try if you want to share your work more. I think it's really great. So thanks again for watching. And next time I'm going to be showing the rest of this scene, which is an action scene, which will be A for action. Take care.